This is Olamide, and he got degree apprenticeships from two of the most competitive finance degree apprenticeships out there. So how do I know him? Well, he was part of my school community last year, and I helped him through the process to get offers from HSBC and Deutsche Bank. Right now, I've brought him back for an exclusive interview to find out how he got into his degree apprenticeships. In the last episode, we talked about exactly how to prepare for your degree apprenticeship interviews. And in this episode, let's zoom out to the degree apprenticeship application process as a whole and how to be a top 1% candidate. Stay tuned. Let's sort of zoom out and look at a timeline of things then, just so people can sort of know what to expect. So from your memory from last year, when did sort of you start with your applications for some of your degree apprenticeships?
So for me, after I applied to UCAS quite early in September, and then that's when I discovered apprenticeships. So from October, I was planning and preparing, and then I found the JP Morgan apprenticeship around the start of November. But I didn't actually apply to it late, which was the reason, again, as I've explained, why I didn't progress to the next stage. Most applications, I think this year, they're moving it quite early compared to last year, because I'm hearing some of them were in late to early September. Yeah. But for me specifically, most of them opened around November, October, November, December, and January as well. The latest I've seen, which was HSBC, the latest I've seen, which was February, which was Bank of America, not Bank of America, Bank of England, so which was February 1st, around that time. But with the application process, it can be very long. But usually, because you're focused on your studies, you forget that you've applied somewhere. So make sure you keep track, like an Excel sheet of where you've applied to, if you've moved to the next stage, because they usually give you like a 7-day window to do like a skills test or situation judgment test. And a lot of people, they forget and they miss out on that because they'll say, you've had your time, we're going to move on to a different applicant. So make sure you're focused on that. Even though it feels long, it actually is quick at the same time. They do take a long time to get back to you. For example, for Deutsche Bank, I applied in December and I didn't hear back from them until March. So that was a 3-period window. And that was during my mock exams as well. They called me. That's another thing, actually. So when you're going through the process, you're going to get a lot of phone calls that you think isn't like someone that you know. You'll just see like a long number on your phone. Make sure you answer all of them because it could be the HR that's calling you. And if you miss those phone calls, that's really on you. They called me after school. And then from there, I did my assessment center in March. And I didn't hear back from them for another whole month until April. And obviously, it's getting close to exams. And then from that, I received my offer in around April 20th. And that's like on the cusp of doing A-level exams. So that should also tell you the importance of keeping up with your studies, making sure you're not falling behind in work. The best thing you could do is even be ahead of the class because you could be randomly called up to do an assessment center where you have to miss school. And instead of falling behind again and having to catch up, you're already ahead of the class. So there's no issue around that. Because also the thing with some apprenticeships, though the grade requirements are low for most of them, Deutsche Bank was quite high, which was 3 A's and an A in maths. So I had to ensure that I did achieve the grades required. So making sure that you're keeping on top of your studies, not falling behind, finding a balance between applying for apprenticeships and also studying. What I usually do was I'll do a lot of studying in the morning before school, around 7:30 towards 9 a.m. when I had school. I'll do school, try and do things during lunch and breaks towards study or watching. I used to watch a lot of your videos during lunch. Yeah, a lot of your videos, yeah. Then after school, I'll go to the gym, come home, do 2-3 hours of A-level revision, and then towards the end of the night, I'll do a lot of degree apprenticeship application sort of work. I'll be on your forum, messaging people, talking to different people, discussing different processes. Yes, it's a difficult period in your life. You're not going to have a lot of time to do what you want, but really, you have to make sacrifices at the end of the day at some point. Because I feel like if you're able to get your apprenticeship now, when it comes to university, it's much easier and less competitive than applying for grad programs, where so for finance, it's less than 1% of applicants that get through, and typically from only the top scores. But if you put in the effort now to put your foot in the door, which for finance, that's all you really have to do. Once your foot is in the door, the world is your oyster. You can go wherever you like to go. They just have to see that you're someone, yes, you got your foot in the door, Now I can go for investment banking, or I change my mind, I want to go into private equity. That's when you have you're free to do what you want. So I put in the work from the start. I made sure I was staying up to do speaking in front of the camera, writing lots of notes, doing a lot of work in general. It wasn't easy, but ultimately, if you want to achieve an apprenticeship, which I think less than 1% of people get through, you have to do what the 1% are doing to get to be in the 1% in the first place. You can't expect to do half the work and expect what you want. You have to do more and expect. The more you do, the more you get, essentially. So you can't expect to get an apprenticeship if you're not willing to put in the work that's necessary to get there. So there's a sacrifice that has to be made. So ultimately, make sure there's a good balance between your studies and work, your studies and apprenticeship application, sorry. When it gets to the apprenticeship assessment center, I'm not sure if it's a good or bad thing, but what I did is I actually neglected some school for a period of time, like a week or so, to drill into that assessment center, because ultimately, yes, you might be able to do well in your mock exam, but if you don't have an offer at the end of it, what's really the point? So being able to switch and turn. So you say, okay, I don't have any applications coming up recently, so I'm going to focus on my studies. But okay, I have an assessment center next week. I'm going to neglect school for a bit and focus on my application. You have to be able to, sometimes you won't be balanced all the time. You're going to have to like pour your water into one cup more than the other. You just have to use your sense and your time management skills to do so. Yeah. So it's a long process, but ultimately it's worth it in the end. Like you reap the benefits and rewards from it.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. That's so powerful. I think what you were saying about sacrifice, I think is true. There's like a quote which is, you have to sacrifice for your goal, otherwise your goal will become the sacrifice. And I think a lot of people, they want their degree apprenticeship, that's their goal, but they're not prepared to put the work in. That they just want it handed to them on a plate, and it's not going to happen. As you said, the statistics show, like for especially the finance ones, especially finance, it's like literally less than 1% of applicants sort of getting the job. So if you want it, you're going to have to sacrifice it. You're going to have to put the work in. You're going to have to do that psychopathic practice we talked about earlier, where you're spending hours like practicing interview questions over and over again, so you can be the 1 out of 100 candidate who goes on to get the job. And I think what you said there as well about neglecting school, I think that's 100% like another strategy as well. It's like a tactical strategy. Do I neglect school for a moment, just sort of focus on my degree apprenticeship? I think that's super powerful. Now, aspiring apprentices, I'm talking to you. I think it's time that we're honest about the magic wand which is going to help you land your dream degree apprenticeship. If you want to find out more about that, go click that video there and I'll see you in 2 seconds. Expelliarmus.